Yeah. Now, coming here today, perhaps some of us have some issues or concerns about finances. Perhaps some of us are actually quite well. So how do we, whether we are still doing quite well financially or we are under some stress, really protect ourselves and even thrive through this COVID-19 situation? I hope to give you some handles and perspectives so that all of us can do better in this area. So, but before we start, just a very quick word on MoneyOwl, because I don't expect everyone to know who we are. So MoneyOwl is Singapore's first comprehensive, I would say only at this point, comprehensive independent financial advisor that fully salaried advisors. So we are a bionic advisor, which means that we don't just have the traditional human advisors and we don't only have a robo platform like some of the newfangled robo advisors. We have a combination of both. So you get the best of human wisdom and technology in your financial plan. As a comprehensive advisor, it means that we don't just do investments, we don't just do insurance, we actually look at your life, your financial life holistically, and even in the context of your life goals. And for Singaporeans, very importantly, we incorporate CPF right into the center of your retirement plan. Now, we're actually a fintech company, but we're not fly by night. As I mentioned, we are an NTUC social enterprise. We are a subsidiary of NTUC Enterprise Cooperative. And at the same time, we have another parent called Provident, who is a fee-only advisor serving mainly the affluent market over 20 years to the highest standards of ethics and expertise. And finally, as I mentioned, we have fully salaried advisors, so you don't have to worry about the conflict of interest. At the same time, they are all on the internationally recognized Certified Financial Planner or CFP program, so you know you are in good hands and safe hands. All right, so what are we going to talk about today? So we're going to talk about how we can thrive financially during COVID-19, and we're talking about financial health and insurance planning, which are really important keys. And in particular, how is it relevant to self-employed persons? We'll talk a bit about CPF, some of the pros and cons of contributing to CPF. And we talk about the mindset that we need to get through this, not just get through the COVID-19, but also thrive now and in the post-COVID situation. And finally, we'll have a very special announcement or promotion for you to help you get started on the savings journey. Yeah. All right. On financial health, we say financial health is key. You know, just as in any marathon running, we want to make sure our physical health is good so that we know how we can plan, we know whether we are suited to do certain activities. The financial planning journey is a lifelong journey, it's a very long journey. And as we want to talk about investing, growing our money and all this, before we do that, really the precondition is that we must have good financial health. And just as you might go for a health screen and get a health report with certain metrics about cholesterol, about your blood sugar, and so on, so are there financial health reports, including the comprehensive plan that MoneyOwl can do for you. But here I put forward 4 metrics of financial health. The first is what we call the basic liquidity ratio, or more commonly, the emergency fund. We recommend that you keep at least 6 months worth of expenses as cash. This is so that if income falls, you have a pool of money that you can turn to in order to fulfill your monthly life expenses, or you might have certain emergencies to take care of. In terms of savings ratio, we recommend that you save more than 15% of your monthly gross income. In terms of debt, we recommend that you keep your debt below 40% of your income, in terms of debt repayment, of your monthly income. And in terms of non-mortgage debt, so this tends to be more discretionary kind of expenses, and we recommend that this kind of debt be kept below 15% of your take-home pay. Now, so why do I start, as a financial advisor, I should be talking about products, I should be talking about investments and markets, right? No, but why do I start on this? Perhaps I could introduce this framework of the personal money equation. There are 2 sides to this money equation, which all of us has, the left side and the right side. So very, very quickly, can I maybe just ask, and also it's kind of post-lunch period, maybe you can type in the chat, those of us who are here, which side do you think actually makes us rich? Is it the left side? You can type help, or is it the right side? In which case you can type an R. As Jerry says, it's the right side. And anyone else thinks that it's the right? Investing so something is the right, both, right, not sure. Right, okay, left, Max. Yeah, okay, thank you so much. Yeah, So I see that most of us think that it's the right side that makes us rich, but perhaps I could suggest to you that perhaps not so clear, and this is why. This is what we have firstly on the left side, that we always start with our income. Our income, and after we put aside some for savings and fixed expenses. Fixed expenses are expenses that don't tend to change. For example, your insurance payments, your mortgage payments, and then you have the rest left for your variable spending. Now, our savings and investment, we put it into the markets, and over a number of years, based on compounded return, we hope to be able to reach our future goal. Now, the left side is really short-term financial planning. And may I suggest to you that it's actually this side that makes you rich or makes you financially well. And this is also the side that you can better control. Because for most of us, actually our most important financial asset is ourselves, our human capital, and especially for self-employed persons, your expertise, your passion and all that. You tend to be the most important financial asset, because as long as you have an income, then you can have savings. If you don't have income, you have to do all kinds of things, and you do funny things in the markets, then can actually make it very hard for you not to make money, and not even that, you can actually lose quite a lot of capital. So because on the right side, it's actually about your long-term investment strategy. And this is what actually helps you stay rich. It helps you to keep your money in inflation-beating assets, so that when you stop having an income one day in your retirement, you can actually still continue to live a life that is comfortable. And this is also what you have less control over, because markets are actually quite hard to control. So if we then look on the left side, what do we have here to do that we can do? It's actually firstly on the income. We want to increase our income and we want to protect it. The left side is also about savings and expenses, and we want to increase our savings by controlling our debt and our expenses. So let's unpack a little bit more. For income, how do we increase our income and protect it? Just now, Ling has said already, competencies. You be the best at what you do, so that you will always stay relevant in good times and in bad times. And by so doing, you will not only safeguard your livelihood, or even when then there's a downturn, when it comes to the point when the market is ready, you are right there because you are the best. And when we have an income, we must protect this income generating ability, because there are life risks. And later I'll talk a bit more about insurance. What about having our savings? What about maintaining expenses, lowering expenses? We always want to try to lower our expenses and increase our savings. And first, it can be done through good budgeting. It's a bit of a pain, but it's actually something that you need to do. It's about lowering your debt so that we live within our means, and of course, building our emergency fund, which I have already mentioned. And during stress times, how can you further reduce your expenses? Like stress times like these. Here are some suggestions for all of us. Firstly, on insurance, you may wish to restructure your insurance so that you can actually get the same coverage but at lower premiums. Now, many of us pay a lot in insurance premiums, but we might actually be undercovered, and this is because we tend to have been sold unsuitable insurance that's expensive. So we can consider restructuring our insurance, and I'll talk a little bit more about low-cost term insurance later. But a note of caution here, please don't just go out and cancel what you have. You really need to speak to an advisor about this, because we don't want you to lose coverage because of health or other reasons. The second is to take a hard look at some of the things that we consume, or rather expenses, and see if we can reduce them or restructure them. Well, those of us who are parents, we may not like this, but if we are under stress, could we consider group tuition instead of individual tuition? When we go to the supermarket, can we buy the cheaper brands, house brands perhaps, or NTUC fair price, rather than the more expensive brands, or even consider frozen meat rather than fresh, on a very, very practical level? Are there some things that you can do without? Can you do without a car? Can you do without a helper? These will really be big ticket items that shift the needle. What about cutting down on some enrichment programs, or thinking about how you use your air conditioning and other utilities? Recently, there's also been more schemes supported by the government to enable banks to defer mortgage payments or restructure loan payments and insurance payments. If you need to, please do approach your bank and speak to them about this. Now, I think that the overall message here is that for those of us who are stressed, we do all this because we want to be able to get through these tough times. Well, for some of us, perhaps we are not so stressed, but it's still a great time, a crisis. It's a great time to look at how you can declutter your life. And it is where if you can look at your budget and see, perhaps I don't really need this. And after a while, you realize, even after life has gone back to normal, that perhaps this was unnecessary in the first place. On the income side, increasing our income during stress times sometimes calls for some special strategies. And here I put down some, as self-employed persons, you are used to this, but can you or your spouse take on an additional job to do get some additional income? Grants for upskilling, this is what the NTUC is big in, and NTUC LearningHub as well. And if we want to, we may not like it, but if we have to, we might want to rent out a room or even sell some personal assets, be it jewelry or be it having things on carousel and all that. If you don't like it, it's not something that's nice. But if there are stress times, these are things you might want to consider. Okay, and I've often asked, right, investing, the right side during the stress times. Now, please only invest if you are financially healthy. If your income is coming in as usual and you have your emergency fund. Investing is really not a quick way to either get rich or a quick way to supplement your income, because markets are very, very volatile. And if you need to liquidate your investments, you might actually be doing it at a loss. And please don't ever borrow to invest. For some of you who still have CPF ordinary account balances, there may be many companies asking you to invest them. If you have a risk of reduced income during this time, please please reconsider whether you really want to invest, because ordinary account can actually be used to pay your mortgage payments. So this can actually form part of your emergency cushion. Overall, the short-term crisis doesn't actually change the right side, what we do on the right side in terms of investments, but it makes it even more important to get it right, because markets can be very, very volatile during these stress times. And briefly, these are some keys to successful investing: being globally diversified, having market-based portfolios, and not market timing. We don't have time to go into that right now, but if you're interested to find out more and learn more, please do visit our website, moneyhour.com.sg, under the investment section. Now we'll go on to the next section about insurance planning. Now, for all persons, including self-employed, there's one thing that we need to understand about insurance, and that the primary purpose of insurance is protection. The primary purpose of insurance is protection and not savings and not investments. If it were, it would be a very, very expensive way to save and invest. And so if we understand it's for protecting, then we need to understand how long do we need to protect ourselves for, and what do we need to protect ourselves against. And here I'll suggest two large areas to think about. The first is about protection against having to pay large medical bills can really, really be catastrophic to us. Or if we are severely disabled and we can't do some activities of daily living, the long-term care costs. And these needs are lifelong needs, because you can end up in hospital today, you can end up in hospital 30 years from now, and this is a lifelong need. And this therefore affects the type of insurance that you buy. The second group of areas that you need, the risks that you need to protect, is actually about replacing your income. And this income can sometimes be threatened by death, by a medical crisis. For example, if you contract a cancer or end up with a heart attack that needs some time off for recuperation, or a disability caused by either illness or an injury. Now, may I suggest to all of us that when it comes to replacing your income, this is really a temporary need, and that we only need it until our retirement age or our last dependent becomes independent, whichever is later. I'll talk a little bit more about this, but if it's a temporary need, then actually you can achieve this coverage with low-cost term insurance. And at MoneyOwl, we always say insurance is an expense. It's important, but it's an expense. So what do we want to do with expenses? We want to keep them low. So we buy as much protection as we need, but we pay as little as we can. And graphically, this presents a different picture of what I've been saying. We are currently here around the current assets level, maybe a 30 or 40 or so. And in maybe 30 years time, we might retire, the kids might go to school. Now, for medical expenses though, this is something that we need for the rest of our lives, because we do not know when we can incur huge medical bills. We do not know when we'll be severely disabled. In fact, for disability and medical bills, perhaps it is something that will be greater in our later years. But what about income replacement? Now, let's say today, should deaf, my kids are still sort of young and they are not yet out of the house, and do I need insurance, right? What happens to my family if I collapse and die after this webinar, right? Does my income need to be replaced? Actually, it does, because if my income is not replaced, life at home cannot go on as normally as possible. And what about disability? If I have suffered an injury and I'm unable to do what I can do, let's say I can't speak anymore, I can't do work in the office, does my income need to be replaced for myself and my family? Yes, it does. And similarly, also for medical crisis. But let's say if this death, disability, or medical crisis hits after I've retired, let's say today is my last webinar, kids are grown up, and if I work, it is because I want to and not because I have to for income. Do I actually need insurance to cover these risks? If you think about it, maybe not, because there's actually no income to replace. So that's why we say that when it comes to income replacement, insurance to do income replacement is actually a temporary need. Right, and so then what kind of insurance can freelancers or self-employed persons get? For the purpose of large medical bills, we already have the national scheme of MediShield Life. For long-term care, we have already the national scheme of CareShield Life, which has been made compulsory for those between 30 and 40, and you can opt in if you're after 40, which we do recommend you do. So these cover you for life. But if you have higher healthcare expectations, you may wish to consider private integrated plans for hospitalization insurance and supplementary plans to long-term care insurance. For replacement of income, for death to cover for your dependents, a term life insurance does a very good job. There's a critical illness insurance as well for conditions like heart attacks and strokes and cancer. And for disability income, this is the insurance that replaces your income of 65% of your monthly income until retirement age. And you can get that if you're a self-employed person, but not a freelancer. So you need insurance company would usually like to see a regular income, be it commission income or some kind of pay slip equivalent for self-employed persons. But freelancers, unfortunately, are not eligible for this type of insurance. There is prolonged medical leave insurance that NTUC Income and Ethica also offer, and this gives you a certain amount of money every day if you're in hospital or if you are on MC for maybe 90 days or even more, depending on what plan you choose. Yeah. So these are the types of insurance that you can consider. And if you need more help, you can go onto our platform where we have a free the robo journey, advisory journey, and you can think about it can tell you what insurance you need and also how much you need. The third part here is the contributing to CPF. Now we talk a lot about CPF, and for self-employed persons, these are some of the options. You have some compulsory contributions you need to make to CPF by law, but you can also top up your CPF account. You can also top up your retirement sum in your CPF in a special account, or you can make what we call voluntary contributions across all of these three accounts. So for the pros and cons, the pros is really that CPF money is risk-free in the sense that Singapore government is not going to default, right? 99.99% is not going to default, and the interest rates are high for risk-free, and you can therefore grow your retirement savings and your medical savings at these high interest rates. You can get certain tax relief as well, but please note that it is a one-way street, right? So if cash is precious to you, this may not be suitable for you. It's a one-way street because there's no liquidity. So we always say it's a bit like joining a secret society, very easy to join and very hard to get out, right? So that's CPF. Medisave contributions, I mentioned, all self-employed persons, your net trade income of more than 6,000, you would have to top up your CPF according to some of these rates here. And the contributions to Medisave account is kept at the basic healthcare sum, which currently is 60,000, and subsequent contributions will then flow to special account. Yes, so I just answer a question here. Max says, what's the difference between freelancers and SEPs? Now, for the purpose of insurance, disability income insurance, they make the insurance companies make a distinction that self-employed persons must show some kind of regular income, right? So, like for example, estate agents, taxi drivers, and insurance agents, they would generally qualify. But freelancers who cannot show evidence of regular income, generally speaking, insurance companies do not qualify you for disability income. So that distinction I'm making in the context of the insurance. Yeah. So then for topping up, what's the max here? I will show you firstly what you can use your MediSave for. So MediSave does have quite a number of users. So if you do top up your MediSave, you can use it for these medical conditions. But MediSave can only be used, doesn't come out of your MediSave account. And if you don't use it up, it will only come up after you die to your nominated, your CPF nominees. And here are the top ups. I think we have someone asking here about what is the max that we can top up, Jerry. Yeah, so the table here that for MediSave, you can top up to the basic healthcare sum of 60,000. Currently, it does go up every year. For retirement, some top up scheme is based on, if you're below 55, it's based on the full retirement sum, which this year is 181,000. And if you're after 55, it's 271,500, which is the enhanced retirement sum. If you go to the CPF website, there's an app there. You can actually look at you can look at my messages, and they can tell you how much you can top up and not. You can also do voluntary contributions that will be spread out across all three accounts according to the contribution rates for your age. And then it is up to this contribution limit of 37,740, which also applies to the tax reliefs in this case of the voluntary contributions as well as the MediSave. So this is for your consideration if it's suitable for you. I'd just like to end off that in this time, perhaps for some of us who are stressed and thinking, okay, CPF top up not for me, I'm really just looking at more the income and expenses. I think what is very important is actually the mindset. And I think that once we have a winning mindset, this is something that will see us through. And here I have a quote from a very famous author, Jim Collins, and he's quoting this Admiral Stockdale, who was a POW during the Second World War. And he said that what we need to do is maintain that unwavering faith that you'll prevail in the end, regardless of the difficulties, while at the same time, you have the courage to confront the most brutal facts and the discipline to do something about it. With this mindset, then we can definitely know what is important to us, and we'll be in good stead, not just to protect ourselves and to survive through this crisis, but also to thrive financially and in our lives. So for the very last slide here, I show you that this is a promotion for you, that if you key in this promo code, you can do what we call a Wise Saver account, which is actually our savings solution, where the fund invests in fixed deposits of various banks at rates that are higher than your savings account. And if you just top it up by $10, you can get basically $5 bonus units. There's no lock-in, but we hope that this will encourage you to get set up for your journey of savings as you build your financial resilience. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Chuin, for the wonderful sharing. We will now take a short break before we introduce our next speaker. For those who wish to grab a drink, please come back before 2:55 p.m. See you later. Thank you everyone for coming back on time. Next, please allow me to introduce Ms. Berthier Rigmor, the co-founder and Chief Executive Officer of Lime Agency Singapore. Ms. Rigmor will be sharing on why you should be your own rainmaker and identify different ways to find new business as a freelancer. Over to you, Rigmor.
Yes, hi. Can you all hear me and see my screen?
Yes, we can
Brenda?
see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So my subject of today is how can you be your own rainmaker? How can you find new business as a freelancer? So first of all, just a little bit about myself. So my name is Rigmor Berthier. I have two companies. One is Lime Agency, which is a traditional design agency. And then I have Just Startup, which is a platform where freelancers, where startups and entrepreneurs can find marketing resources and learning material. I am Norwegian, which is my blonde hair. I have a French husband, which is why my name is Berthier afterwards. I have 2 children, and I have lived in Singapore for 9 years. So I have been working here for quite some time. My field is marketing strategy. I have about 27 years of experience in this field. And some of the brands that you might know that I have worked with is L'Oreal, Unilever, Procter & Gamble, AXA Insurance, Nippon Paint, and this is just to name some. But today it's more about you. It's not about me. We're going to talk about a little bit how we can adapt to a digital mindset as when we are having our own businesses and we are working for our own account. And also in this digital world, we give things away for free. And I know you don't want to hear that, but that's the way it is. We're going to talk a little bit about tools and solutions that we have. And then we're going to talk about how we can earn some revenue of those. Now, in terms of adapting to a digital mindset and to talk about your own expertise, there's always a way to adapt it today. I'm just going to give you a little example. Now, what you see here on my screen is basically Airbnb. They went, when COVID started, they actually started to offer online experiences. So you can actually go and visit, you can go on a leopard safari in Sri Lanka with this person here, and you pay that $20 per person, and you can learn about the leopards there, the leopards in Sri Lanka. So, so this is where we see that. So this is a tour guide or a travel guide who is converted to online, and he's giving away his courses or his guides to the world, and globally anybody can actually then go to Sri Lanka. So that's just an example. Another thing is other examples that we have. It's not only Airbnb. We see that across a number of platforms. You have, for example, on TikTok, you have this guy called Dax Newman. He's making ceramic pots. And he's selling those, but you can actually follow his videos. It's quite nice to see this young man who's making this pottery. You have Emma Chamberlain, who's using YouTube. She's having her daily vlogs, and she's actually launched her own coffee brand online. And then Twitch, which is just normally a channel for gamers. This man called Jim Shark, he helps you to do exercises online for how you can build a little bit of muscle mass. So basically all of these guys, they've switched online, and they're using the digital tools that are out there, and there are so many out there, and that's so good. We don't have to reinvent the wheel anymore. We can use what is out there. Now, I went to see, so during COVID, the lockdown, I started walking a lot around Singapore. I think I was not the only one who started to go outside. It was the only thing we could do. And I went to Spotify, and because I was listening, while I was walking around Singapore, I was listening to a lot of podcasts for history, for crime, and stories. And then I was thinking, oh, maybe there's a tour guide in Singapore who can then lead me around Singapore with a podcast. And I couldn't find any. So there are no tour guide in Singapore. So if there are any tour guides here, please, please, this is your opportunity. So, but if I just did, for example, if I search only tour guide, it came out a lot. So there were a lot of tour guides in other countries and other cities, just not in Singapore. So this is a way, so a tour guide would normally, accompany people physically around the place, but it's with a digital mindset, you can actually do it online, and it's possible, and you don't have to be there physically yourself. So that's an opportunity. So when we're thinking about a digital mindset, it's boiling down to also what our other speakers say today. It's about knowing what you can and doing what you can do best, and using the digital tools out there to showcase what you're good for. So if you're a chef, you can showcase recipes. If you're a photographer, maybe use Instagram to showcase your skills. Are you good at speaking? Are you a talker? Maybe you can use LinkedIn, or there are a lot of speaker platforms out there. Are you a caregiver? Maybe you can give tips and share your day for how you work with the one that you're giving your care to. Are you a masseuse or like a sport masseuse? Show the techniques that people need. People are outside, and sometimes we do maybe we force a little bit too much, and we need to know how to take care of our muscles ourselves. Are you a dentist? Give opinion, test toothbrushes. Whatever your expertise is, there is always a way to showcase it. And it's just a matter of knowing what you do best and knowing the channel that you can actually use to showcase your expertise. Now, then a lot of people would come to me and say, yeah, but hang on, that's how I earn my money. If I give that away for free, how will I then earn my money? And in a way, you're right. And I'm not saying that you should give everything away for free. A good rule of thumb is that you give away for free the information that is vital for your customer to know about you before entering a business relation. So for example, if you're a designer, it's very important that a potential customer know what type of work you've done before. Not necessarily saying that you need to design something for free, but you can showcase what you've done before. And if you're a tour guide, maybe if you do a podcast where you give free tours, you will at least, and you can also let people know that you're available for private tours. And maybe this way they will sign up for a paid subscription, maybe on your website to get more in-depth information. So there's always a way to sort of fine-tune the stuff you give away for free and the stuff that you actually take money for. And yes, internet is made that way, and especially social media, that there's a lot of things that is free out there. And in order to be competitive, you need to give a little bit about yourself to earn so much more back. So, so there's always this thing about giving away for free. And then I want to talk a little bit about the tools that are available out there, because it can be a little bit hard to sort of navigate and knowing which one should I use. For example, social media channel. There are so many out there. So you have Facebook, you have Instagram, you have Twitter, Pinterest, there's TikTok. There's all of these social media channels, and it's really hard to be good at every single channel. So the question so the answer actually to that question, what channel, is where would your clients be? Where is your target audience? So let's say that you are good at doing one thing, and you know that your target audience is specifically maybe using Facebook, then maybe you should use Facebook to then study Facebook a little bit for how you can then showcase your expertise on Facebook. If your target audience is younger and using TikTok, maybe you need to learn a little bit about how TikTok works so that you can showcase your expertise on TikTok. Another thing is when we're starting off, we often tend to say, oh, we want to be good at everything and everywhere. And our main tip to that is no. We do one channel at a time. So your target audience would probably have more than one channel. They will probably be on Facebook and Instagram, and there will be one channel they use more than others, or they might be on LinkedIn if you are selling to corporates, for example. But do one at a time. Learn how to use that channel well before you do another channel. And think about this channel is your bridge to your target audience. This is where you showcase what you're good for, what you can do, and how awesome it is to work with you. And then you showcase that to your prospective clients out there. So one channel at a time. Now, how do I find that channel? How do I know where my where my target audience is, or where my potential buyers will be? Well, there are actually quite a lot of free material here too. So there's this slide that I'm showing here is from a company that's called We Are Social. And they're doing this study every year. And this time they also did it in July. Normally it's in January, but they also did it in July because of COVID. And what we can see is like what everybody knows already. We are spending more time in front of our screens. We are streaming more, more videos on Netflix. We are spending more time on social media. We are spending longer times on messaging services like WhatsApp and music streaming. So across the line, people are spending more time. And in these kind of free tools, you can actually find information about, okay, if you know your target audiences are women about 45 years old, you can go and see what are the channels they are using and what is the information that is interesting to them. So there's information, you can go out there and find where is your target audience. And that's the channel that you would then choose to start with. Now, podcasting. So remember the tour guide I talked about? You could start podcasting. So podcasting is basically to make a series of podcast, or it's only audio, so that people can listen to, and you can talk about what you do. You can also invite maybe key persons within your industry that you can interview in your podcast, and then you spread this out to the world. There's a lot of podcasting solutions out there. I'm just listing some of them here that are the most popular one. It's Podbean, Buzzsprout, Blueberry, Transistor, Fusebox, Libsyn, SoundCloud. They have very funny names, all of them. But do you have a look at what's available out there, and go and listen to what others are doing, and then make your own, because you always have something. If you're good at something, you always have something to showcase. You always would have something that people would listen to. And then another thing is that what I just would say also, just make sure that you have a good microphone. And there are a lot of microphones out there, and some are quite, you could get a good quality for quite a reasonable price. You don't have to have the setup as the girl has here. But there are a lot there if you want to try out podcasting. But please do your little marketing research. Go and see what others are doing first before deciding what will be your expertise and your angle for your podcast. So that's one thing that you could do. Another thing is you could also host courses. So we were hearing about Timothy earlier, who had courses online. There are plenty of available solutions for that too. You can actually go to this platform which is called Udemy, and you can give your own courses there and take payment for it. There's also another one called Coursera. There's Podia, who was originally only for podcasts, but now you can also do video and do courses. And there's something called Teachable as well. And there are plenty of more popping up every day. And again, coming back to what is your expertise? What is the best way to showcase it? Is it through a podcast, or is it to maybe holding a course in what you know best? Again, I would really recommend buy a couple of courses, maybe spend $10, $15, $20 to see what others are doing before you decide on how you would make your own. And then you test it first with maybe some friends and family and colleagues or ex-colleagues, and then you figure out which one is your angle. And yes, it is possible to earn money from these courses online. Again, stick to what you're good at. It's your expertise. Talk about that. Give courses to people, and there's always something. If you know something, you probably know it better than someone else, and they would be interested in knowing more. So then you can host a course. All right, so let's say if you are a photographer and you might need a website, or if you're a caregiver, maybe you want a website too, to talk about your services or where people can actually contact you. There are a lot of tools that are quite easy to use. I'm listing 3 here. One is Wix, one is WordPress, and another one is Shopify. So Shopify is more for e-commerce, if you're going to sell something online. But what these tools have in common is that they have ready-made templates. So when you go and you start in these kind of tools, you end up spending quite a lot of time sometimes because you want to make it your own look and feel. And this is coming from me, who's working with branding 24 hours a day. Don't try and reinvent any wheels. Use the template that is there, that is available. Don't try to make it too much your own thing, because it will be very hassle-some to change. So use templates that are out there. Install only the plugins you need. You will, if you go in there, you will see that, okay, there are plugins. Just install the minimum. And if you are, if you think that search engine optimization, SEO, is something for you, which is basically that people will search for you on Google and find your website, try to contact an expert for that. So it is possible to build these things quite easily. Again, just use whatever it's out there. Don't try to do too much of your own and your own HTML programming or stuff like that. Your time is best used on what you do best, which is maybe not doing websites, but actually doing your job. So the website will be then one of the tools that you would use to recruit people to come and maybe buy your services. Another thing that we also use a lot, and we use that also I use that in my own business as well, is virtual communities. So we are here today all virtually, but there are a lot of virtual communities. So depending on what industry you're in, I saw there was a question about a designer. Yeah, there are freelancer networks. You can sign up to these platforms. But moreover, if you go on social media, for example, on LinkedIn or on Facebook, you will find groups that share they do the same work as you. They have the same questions as you. So go and join those virtual communities and start talking to them. Give your opinion. And this way you can actually connect with others in the same situation, and maybe also connect with potential clients in the future. Because I truly believe that in our new economy, in our new normal, we really need to work together. We are here, we're in it together, and everybody needs to share. And it's not about just holding on to whatever we all have, but share. So if you have, you can also see that sometimes when you hook up with these virtual communities, and I've experienced this myself, is that somebody says, oh, there's this project, we don't have enough designers. Is it anybody who has this type of designer or resources? And then you can say, yes, actually, I know, or I have one, or I know somebody. So these, join these virtual communities and be part and be active there. I'm not saying just spend 8 hours a day. I'm saying maybe 15 minutes a day, maximum. All right, so then revenue. We wanted to earn money. And I think this is something that is quite interesting. So one thing is the courses that we talked about. So as you can see here, I'm sharing to the right. Her name is Sarah. She has really, really long hair. I actually did a course with her, and I learned a lot about hair growth and vitamins and stuff for the hair. And I made my own shampoo. So she's giving off this, she's selling these courses, and I bought one. There's also, this is the Udemy, the one that I was mentioning. That's how it looks like. So if you do a course here, this is how it will look like. And this one is sold for $59.98, this particular course, but you can price your course yourself. So there's one thing to earn revenue. When you are on these platforms, they will take a little percentage of what you're earning, because that's how they keep the platform alive. So just make sure that you know, like all the costs also related to whatever courses you might want to give. Another thing is sponsors, and this is where I want to take a little short break. It's basically sponsors is, if let's say take the example of a podcast. Well, then actually your listeners is not the one who's paying anymore, because they are listening for free. So who's paying you are the sponsors. So you actually have sort of another target group that you need to take into account. You have this listener base, and then you have the sponsors that you might want to talk to. So these are, this is a little bit of the mindset of you need to change, that maybe it's not the one who's listening to your service who will be the ones who's paying for it. So in terms of switching a digital mindset, this is something that you should think about. You could have revenue from sponsors. And then there's something called affiliation programs. So affiliation programs, what is that? It's actually, if you have, for example, a website, and then you say, oh, go and check out this link. If you're a photographer, maybe you can say, oh, this is the camera that I'm using. Somebody click on that link, they buy the camera, and actually the camera producer will pay you a percentage. That's affiliation. So if you have a well-working website with a lot of traffic and people going to visiting the other links, then you can actually earn some money out of that too. So that's quite interesting to look at. And then last but not least, get feedback. Whatever you do, if you're working with clients, if you have people, ask them to give you feedback. Ask them to give you feedback on Google, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, anywhere, where you are, whatever channel you use. And the rule of thumb is, if you don't ask, you will not get it. So ask for it, and people are very happy to give feedback, especially nowadays. Now, what did we talk about? Adapting to a digital mindset, knowing what you know best, doing what you do best. Give a little bit away for free. There are some tools, there are many, many tools out there. And yes, you can actually earn some extra revenue on the side. All the links, I think it has been shared already, but I'm just stating it here as well. I think it's shared in the chat. All the links that I just talked about, it's on one single website there. You can go and have a look. And that's me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rigmor, for your overview on what digital tools are out there and how freelancers can best benefit from them. Our next speaker is Mr. Lawrence Chia, a real estate agent from ERA. As a self-employed person, Mr. Chia's livelihood was affected during the COVID-19 pandemic. However, he quickly put his extra time to good use by tapping on the NTUC Training Fund for Self-Employed Person. Let's welcome Mr. Chia to share his story of a successful SEP transformation. Mr. Chia, please.
Hi, hello everyone. I'm Lawrence. I'm very grateful to be invited by NTUC LearningHub to be in this webinar and sharing my transformation. Just a brief introduction about myself. I graduated from NTU and worked in a corporate company for 8 years, and after which I am a little bit sick of corporate world, and I decided to jump into real estate, which is in November last year. And after I jumped into it, right, not long later, the COVID came. Yeah, before COVID, everything was fine, and I can go door knocking and can go to show flat to meet up prospects and clients. But when COVID hits us, we can't really do that anymore. We were locked. We are like during a circuit breaker. We can't step out of our house, and it's like a part of us. Those daily things that we do, we can't really do it anymore. But during circuit breaker, our leaders from Preeminent Group in ERA organized a series of webinars on support scheme to share with us what are the things that we can do and what are the support schemes that the government has come up with to help us pass this period. During these webinars, right, the SEP support scheme was something that interests me a lot, because it's like there's a lot of things we can't do. We can't go and meet our clients physically and show the property physically. That's why during this law period, the SEP training support scheme interests me, because it allows me to learn and earn at the same time, which is why I thought, why not earn some pocket money and upgrade myself during this law period. And after learning about this support scheme, right, I took initiative to go through the course list to see what are the courses that are available for me and which are interesting. And there are two courses that I find it very interesting, which one of the is the e-commerce campaign management, because with the current situation, we can't go out to meet our prospect or clients. We definitely need to get more people to have more leads. That's why I took up this course, and this course really helped me to understand how digital marketing campaigns work and how can I reach out to my prospects and leads online without meeting them face-to-face physically. Okay, and the other one will be the course which I took, because I find it a hassle to like spend 5 to 6 hours organizing the data that I got from the internet, the transaction data. So I need to sort them out, and before I present it to my clients and show them what are the market trends and what are the transaction values for their specific location they are looking for. So I signed up this course in order to know more about data analysis. How can I speed up the process of combining the data and preparing them for my clients? So the data appreciation for operations is really cool. It helps shorten my time to prepare all this data from 5 to 6 hours to 2 hours. So every time I meet a new client, I need to take about 2 hours to prepare all the data that I need to present it to them. Yeah, that's how it helped me. The courses helped me to bring myself up and also provide extra knowledge and also extra presentation to my clients. And this has been really helpful, and I strongly urge everyone to sign up for the course. And also just a special shout out to one of the people in LearningHub, which is Chuin. She's the first one that shared with us on all the courses available from SEP support scheme and their details. So, and also she went an extra mile because this course is supported by the government, and we need to make some claims after the course so that we can get our pocket money. It's like $10 per hour for me. And she helped me to process the claims too. So it was pretty fast. The claims come about in about 1 to 2 months time. So it's already in my pocket already. Yeah, that's all I have to share. I'm not too sure if anyone would like to have any questions.
Okay, maybe we can leave the questions to the end during the
Okay,
panel discussion. Yeah, so thank you, Mr. Chia, for sharing how you tied through the circuit breaker period and found the motivation to adapt to the new normal. Next, we have Ms. Wee Kok Ying, a business manager from NTUC Learning Hub, who will share more on the government grants that trainees can tap on for training. Over to you, Ms. Wee.
Okay, thank you. Give me a minute. Let me share my screen. Give me a minute. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Great. Okay, hi. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kok Ying from NTUC Learning Hub here. I'm currently a business manager with Consumer Sales Department for more than 10 years. And just now, previously, Mr. Lawrence has mentioned my colleague Julin, and thank you for the compliment for my colleague Julin here. Okay, the next slide. Okay. Okay, for SEP, right, of course, the objective is to help SEP trainees to earn as they train. Secondly is to support the SEP in deepening, acquiring new competency during this CB period. And of course, to prepare them for when the economy picks up and if there's a new opportunity arise. So what is the benefit of this SEP scheme? Basically, if you're not NTUC Union member, right, you get to have earn a training allowance of $10 per hour. But if you're NTUC Union member, right, you get additional training allowance support up to $11. Okay, for $10.50 if you have joined, $10.50 per hour if you join after 1st of March 2021 as a union member. And if it is before 1st of March 2020, you get to enjoy $11 per hour. So basically, what are the fundings available? So there's three three levels of three tiers of funding: skills development fund, SDF for individuals. Basically, these are the skills future funding that is meant for all Singapore citizens and PR if you are aged 21 years and above. And for all these courses, right, majority of our NTUC Learning Hub courses are subsidized up to 90%. And second tier, level 2, you can tap on the Skills Future Credit. Skills Future Credit is introduced in 2015. It's for all Singaporeans aged 25 years and above. They will receive an opening credit of $500, and you can use this to offset the course fee payable, which means for working adult Singaporeans, right, you can use this, and it's very worthwhile to use, because at the end of the course, you might need to pay $0 cash at all. And lastly, third tier, if you're a union member and you have already fully utilized your Skills Future Credit, you can tap on this U tab to offset your course fee. But not to worry, because recently government has introduced and launched in October 2020, there is another top up of $500 in Skills Future Credit. So I guess for now, most of the SEP trainees, they are using their Skills Future Credit to attend our courses. Okay, next. So what do NTUC Learning offers? Actually, we have these 5 SEP bundles. Entrepreneur bundles. If you're looking to do your own setup business, right, you can look at these 8 courses with us under Entrepreneur Bundle. Secondly, is a service professional. If you're exploring into working into the service industry, these are the 5 courses that we recommended for you. Third is the marketer bundle. If you're looking into e-commerce industry, yes, this is the course for you. Fourth is the quick fixer bundle. If you're looking into self-development, improve your self-awareness, or these are the 5 courses as well. And lastly, if you're working office specialist bundle, if you're back to office environment, these are the basic so-called the ICT or the computer courses that is required. And of course, how to apply for our courses. For SEP trainees, actually, you may approach us with one of your eligibility. The letter of eligibility issued by NTUC E2I. Second, the SIRS letter or email issued by NTUC. Third, the SIRS letter issued by the CPF board. With this, either one of the letter, right, you can visit us at our 2 branches at NTUC Learning Hub, NTUC Trade Union House at Bras Basah, or at E2I Devonaya. We are open currently from Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 3 p.m. Or you can call us at our LHub hotline at 6336-5482. We are also opening from 9 a.m. to 5:30. Or you can drop me an email, courtney.week@ntuclearninghub.com. Me and my team will greatly assist you. Yeah, that's all. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Wee, for such an informative sharing on the different grants that trainees can tap on for training. I know all of you still have some burning questions to ask the speakers. So let me introduce our moderator for the panel discussion, Ms. Rachel from NTUC Learning Hub, and let me welcome all the speakers back for the panel discussion. Over to you, Rachel.
Thanks, Brenda. Good afternoon, everyone. As Brenda has mentioned, I'm Rachel Wee, Rongrawi, and I'm the Brand and Communications Manager at NTUC Learning Hub. I'll be moderating the panel discussion today. And you know, today we had the morning session and also like this afternoon session, especially for SEPs. I feel really excited for SEPs because you know, I personally have some friends who are SEPs themselves, and they have been asking, you know, what kind of support and how should they keep themselves buoyant during this period. And I think that our speakers today have really done well in addressing those questions. For Wan Ling, you know, we got insights into how the gig economy has evolved and how the freelancing market has become so much more sophisticated than before, especially within Singapore. Chuin has divulged some secrets on how you can protect yourself financially in the COVID-19 era, while Rigmor has generously shared some very good tips on finding new business as a freelancer. And then also we had Lawrence, who is, you know, quite quite famous within my own team, because his story was really a testament to how like upskilling can really enhance your work, especially as an SEP. And then also Ying, my colleague, who shared her expertise on some grants available to SEPs. But you know what, without further ado, I shall address some of your questions that you have put into the chat box. There are a lot of those and very good questions. So if I may just invite everybody to the screen, please. Everyone's on the screen, I see. Okay, great. I would first like to address Wan Ling. Wan Ling, in your presentation, you have rightly mentioned that freelancers have taken steps to digitalizing themselves and upskilling for like the digital economy. For those who are less savvy, and there were a couple of SEPs who mentioned that they are not very tech savvy, how do you think they can take their first steps to upgrading their skills in their area? And how do you think they can, begin to seize opportunities in the digital economy?
Okay, so I'm going to take these questions in two parts. The first part, right, is essentially, it's important for us, right, as freelancers to be able to land jobs. I think that's very, very important. So that's the first part that I'm going to take. The second part, right, is actually the longer term aspect of being able to upskill yourself. So I speak from the viewpoint of my previous incarnation as the CEO of a gig platform. And essentially for me, I thought that such a platform was important because it allowed freelancers to plug and play and to be matched up to people who are looking for their services in a very easy way. So there are many, many platforms out there right now. They're all very easy to use. And so I might encourage our freelancers, depending on the type of industries that they're in, to do a little bit of homework, Google a little bit and find out, right, what are some of the good platforms that they can actually put their, I would say, their knowledge to, their skill sets to. There are gig platforms for people who are programmers. There are gig platforms for people who are designers. And in fact, even within the design area, it's divided into many, many different parts. There are graphic designers, people who do brand design. And also I would say there was a question that was asked earlier. It's about, engineering design and architectural design. So yes, there are also platforms like this. And the important thing about this as well, and I think there's a lot of buoyancy and a lot of optimism for freelancing, because freelancing as a type of job set actually allows our workers to be able, right, to look beyond the shores of Singapore. So it's not just about looking, right, for Singapore employers that you can be gigging for. You can actually, right, be gigging for employers right outside of Singapore. And within that itself, there are a few things that you can actually pick up. The first one, right, is obviously honing your skills for internationals audience. But the other one too, right, is actually also finding out how international companies work. Culturally, right, they can be quite different from us. And I do believe, right, as Singaporean workers, one of the areas in which we are always very strong in is actually our cross-culturalism, and international skills. So I think, right, this is actually a very, very good opportunity for us to be able to pick up jobs, not only from Singapore overseas, but also at the same time, right, to hone our skills, right, for the long term. Now, the second portion, right, to your question, Brenda, you were asking also about upskilling. Now, this is a national war cry. I think we all know that Singapore has very little resources. A lot of our resources are actually imported, but there is one resource, right, that we have that is definitely national and, inbuilt in Singapore. And that's actually our HR resources, our talent resources. And I think, right, all the more we have to make sure that we up our competitiveness, we up our curve in terms of the skill sets that we have to make sure that it's relevant. I would say, right, also taking, experience from what I used to do running a startup. Essentially, I think Singaporeans, by and large, are good marketeers. We have very good sales skills. We have very good marketing skills. And I think a lot of it is because Singapore, right, by itself, even though the market is small, we have high disposable income and people, right, tend to buy a lot of things. Also at the same time, right, we're international. We have a lot of international companies in Singapore. I heard just now from a previous presentation, Procter & Gamble, and all these are all big FMCG, fast-moving consumer goods company. And because of this, right, there's a lot of residual, I would say skill sets that are inherent in a lot of Singaporeans. However, as we know, the whole entire landscape for marketing and for sales, right, is shifting. You know, I would say maybe 10 years ago, comms skills, you will hear terms of like above the line, below the line, type of, I would say ways of marketing, were the ways to do things. However, right, if you think about this, maybe 5 years ago, if I ask you, what kind of news do you read? Where do you get your news from? You will still be able to tell me it's Straits Times, it's Business Times. But right now, I would, maybe want to bet with you that a lot of your audience, a lot of the people that you're selling things to, probably, right, might not be able to tell you the brand names. They will not be able to tell you Straits Times and all that because, right, information comes to them in a feed, And because of this, the way that you do advertising needs to change. The way that people consume information has changed. And that's why, right, a lot of the marketeers I see, constantly, good marketeers, right, constantly upgrade themselves by going for courses. And that's courses like in social media, in digitization and all that. I saw some comments just now to say that it's hard. But you know what? Actually, right, if you just put the audience as, forefront, you would be able, right, to understand what the audience wants and in a way how to deliver it. And I would like to put in a plug. Of course, this is a conference that's also co-hosted, right, by our good friends from LearningHub. I felt very sad today, looking at the lineup. We all miss KK very much. But one of the things that KK has always been a big proponent of, right, was actually in the area of skilling, and one of the things that he was very big on working with us was actually on digitization. So there are a lot of courses out there. In fact, the courses, right, aren't just about branding. There's also on automation. There's also, right, courses, right, to help you scrape for information. Can you imagine getting free database online? And there's a way to do it. And these are some of the courses that you can also learn from the LearningHub. So yes, so Brenda, I hope that this answered your question and also shared, a bit of insights, to all our dear freelancers here.
Yes, thank you so much, Wan Ling. I really agree that Singaporeans are very well poised to seize opportunities in the global gig economy. And I guess also, being in Singapore and being in where we're positioned, we're actually like in a good, we act as a very good springboard for SEPs to venture beyond our shores. And, as you have rightly mentioned, KK, who, because I'm part of the comms team and we work with him very closely, and every time even behind closed doors, he's always like trying to spur us to digitalize ourselves. And also he's a very big proponent to what we do at NTUC LearningHub and NTUC as part of the labor movement. Which brings me to my next question. A lot of SEPs here, they, and I'm sure you have seen the comments because you have addressed some of them. They have asked about how
to join UFSE.
Yes, how they can tap on the support. Okay. So maybe just for the benefit of those who didn't see the chat group, I'm wondering, maybe you can enlighten us.
So I was very heartened actually, after my speech, right? I saw so many questions about how to join UFSE. Okay, so maybe what I can do is to just explain a little bit, So UFSE, right, is actually a department in NTUC. Okay, and so, right, the people who join UFSE are staff, like, like me. So I'm in the USME team. However, because, right, it's a unit, and it was a unit, right, that was very special in that it was set up to look after a very large growing group of Singaporean workers, and that's actually the self-employed workers. They actually work with many different partners. So one partner, of course, right, are our unions. We have about 59 unions, and all the unions are across many different industries. So we have unions that look at tour guides. We have unions, right, that look at, for instance, educators, adult educators. So there's many, many different types of unions. So for some of you, that's why in my reply, I did ask, hey, you know, what industries are you in? Because if you are in those industries that already have unions, what you can do is to drop, right, FSE, an email. So it's fse@ntuc.org.sg, and they will make sure, right, that someone will contact you so that you can be connected up with the union so that you get union representation. Now, because, right, this is also the gig economy, gig, right, is very interesting. If you listened carefully to my presentation and my speech just now, I did talk about how gig is very resilient. For every door that is closed, another door or a few doors will open. And because of this, right, there has been a lot of new associations that has been set up to represent new types of jobs and industries that were created by freelancers. And within that itself, we have associations, some of the very famous ones, right, or established ones, right, that we always hear about, you know, would be NTA. So that's the National Taxi Association. And we also just recently formed another one because of Grab, because of Gojek coming in, which is a private hire one. So these two, right, are actually forms of associations that we work with at the FSEU. Beyond that, we are also forming new types of other types of associations. So NICA, you know, I mentioned that also in my speech, is a very new association looking at coaches. So if you are also, right, in those particular industries, also drop us an email and we will also, right, be able, right, to bring you towards those associations. So associations is a little bit different from unions, but having said this, right, that's all representation. And of course, the last one, right, is actually networks. So we have loose networks. So some of these networks are networks that we work together with at the NTUC. It could be, you know, like just now, one of the presenters were talking about, like, go on to LinkedIn, go on to Facebook. There's all these like networks, closed door networks inside there. A lot of creative professionals, you know, for instance, right, have a closed book membership towards a Facebook, what do you call that, community that looks at, you know, creative professionals. So, you know, these are also groups that we work with that we try, right, to also have some form of representation for them. But the most important thing is that we're here to make sure, right, that we create choices for you for freelancing. Also at the same time, when you make those choices, right, we want to protect you, you know, in those choices as workers. So yes, please drop us a line. You know, you can't join technically UFSE, but you definitely can join, right, the labor movement, and the labor movement, right, that's involved with the associations, the unions, and the networks. Okay? Is that e-commerce association you have TTAP? Okay, you just drop an email, okay? Just Matthew Chui just sent out a thing, yeah.
Okay, thanks so much, Man-Ling. You've covered like very comprehensively. I'm really glad that, you know, you were here with us during the session to address all of that and, you know, bring awareness for SEPs. And talking about protecting our SEPs, I would like to direct the next question to Ting. One of the questions that came in, because Ting, you were talking about reassessing your, you know, your suite of insurance policies that we have, because, you know, insurance, as you said, is an expense. One question that was posed is, and I quote, if I bought too many insurance policies and thinking of reducing my insurance expense, how should I begin assessing what is necessary or not? And how can MoneyOwl help SEPs?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the question. I think I'll take that together with I think there's also another question asked about how to apply for a disability income insurance. If you allow me, I'll just do this. I'll share my screen, which is actually of MoneyOwl's website. And so this is how you can go about assessing your insurance. Sorry. I'm not sure what you're seeing. Let me, are you seeing my, okay.
Yes, we are.
All right, let me share something else. Okay. All right, okay. So if you go to MoneyOwl's website and you go under insurance, you will see that you can actually do two things. You can do what we call find out what you need. And so here you can go about assessing your needs, right? And then based on your life stage and profile, and it will bring you to the next stage and what you actually might need. And it'll actually ask you to key in some of your financial information, dependence information, and it will come up with a recommendation of your needs and maybe your gaps as well if you already have some insurance. So like I said, for all that will give you a first idea, and thereafter please do you can contact MoneyOwl through either an inquiry form at the end of this journey, and then we can see how an advisor can help you. Just please don't just go out and cancel your insurances, because it's very important. We don't want you to lose the coverage, right? There was also a question on how to assess your how do you buy disability income insurance as a self-employed person. For self-employed persons, the disability income, or we call occupational disability income, is maximum 65% of what your monthly average income is. So if again on this website, if you to do a quick way, you can go to compare insurance, right? And then if you click on occupational disability, for most of it would be 65, I think would probably be more appropriate, because that's the rule. And then you can key in some of these things and they will show you a quote. And at the end of the quote, if you want, you can send an inquiry to MoneyOwl and the advisor will contact you thereafter. Yeah, so basically you buy this insurance through an advisor if you wish to apply.
Okay, thank you, Chuin Ting. I also have another question. So you did mention in the chat box that that there's no hard selling because your sales persons are not exactly salespersons, they're advisors. So could you elaborate more about that?
Okay, so actually MoneyOwl was set up to bring this comprehensive, competent and conflict-free advice to the mass market, because we found that there was this advisory gap in the market where advisors are often seen as salespeople, and people may not be comfortable with planning or getting in insurance or investment or general planning advice because of this conflict of interest caused by commissions. So this is not to say that commissions are bad or that commissioned agents are unethical, but it's just that when you know that your advisor is actually compensated by commission, it might create that doubt in the mind of the client to whether the advice is being given is of really in the client's best interest. So in our model, what we do is we actually remove that doubt by having all our advisors fully salaried. Yeah. So this is what we do, and we are committed to it, and we believe that should be able to bring up also the standard of advice and generally create more comfort of that safe space for clients. So do visit us on the website, and you can browse around. It's like 24/7 shop, right? And nobody's going to be hounding you. But when you're ready, and only when you're ready, you can send in an inquiry, and then there'll be somebody there to look after you.
Okay, thank you, Chuin Ting. That was really helpful. I see that some people are, we'll try MoneyOwl. So this is really great. So for the next question, I would really like to pose it to Rigmor, who has shared a lot of really good tips on how SEPs can cast their nets wide by having podcasts, conducting courses, and also giving freebies. I think, in Singapore, that's relatively like a new concept. So Rigmor, with all this in mind, how do you think, because we are going to reopen the economy in phase 3 pretty soon, how do you think this reopening could change the opportunities that SEPs have in terms of the gig economy?
You mean like when we're opening up, what will the changes be as opposed to being only digital? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, very good question. Yes, no, I think that we're on a trend that is going to last. But with that, I'm not saying that we're all going to stay inside all the time. But in terms of being digitally, I think what we've learned is that today we actually have all the tools we need, and more are coming to make it easier for people to work from the comfort of their homes, or from a cafe, or from anywhere. And you can have clients not only in the country where you are physically present, but you can have clients globally all over the world. So I think we already knew that before COVID. COVID has reinforced the reality of actually, yes, we can. And we're seeing all of these big companies saying that no, we're not going to force people to come back to the offices. They can all work from home. So I think we do see that shift in terms of a big chunk will stay digital. So learning this now, or like, I think it's never too late to start. I think anybody can start and learn a little bit for how they can showcase their expertise. I still think that even if when we're opening up, we would still be needing things to do things digitally, and to be, we need to be present digitally as well. And of course, then we are opening up to do what we do best physically, and we can do that wherever we live, right? But then we can enhance that. Let's say if you're a tour guide, you can have people that you walk together with around, go back to my example of the tour guide. You can walk around Singapore physically with people, but you can at the same time have other people calling in live, maybe from another country. So I think this will stay. I'm not saying that it's not gonna, we're gonna do only digitally. I think everybody's craving to go out and to meet people and to engage physically with people. But today I really see that this will last for a while. I'm just taking the example with my company. We are completely switching the office location. Everybody's working from home, and once a week we will find a space somewhere of our choice to work together at some point. So we will still need that connection with our clients as well. We will still need to have meetings, but we might actually change. It doesn't have to be in an office. It can be somewhere else. So does that answer your question?
Yes, I think that was really well said. And I guess for the next question that I would like to open to all the speakers, starting with Rigmor, what is one key lesson that SEPs should take away from the COVID-19 pandemic? And while this has kind of cast like a dark cloud over all of us, but there are some silver linings at the end of it. What do you think we can all walk away from it like in a positive note?
I think one key learning is that your expertise doesn't have a border. I think that's one of the things that I would really bring out. If you're doing your job, and I think you can do that, your same job also being globally. Now, taking the example of, there's one called Uber photographer here in Singapore. There's a Grab Uber driver, and he's taking photos of his passengers every time. And once I was in his car as well, and he took a photo of me, and he's taking photos of everybody, and he's sharing that on Instagram. So he is actually known outside of the Singapore border, showcasing Singapore life within a Grab car. And I think that is just beautiful, that people can share their experiences elsewhere. And there are people that are interested in that. People want to know how we live in different countries. And I think Singapore is also, as you were saying, your culture is something that can be transported elsewhere.
Nice, thank you. And next, I would like to invite Lawrence. Lawrence, if there's one key lesson that SEP should take away from this pandemic, what would you say that is to you?
To me, for this pandemic, it's a time for people to take a step back and readjust themselves of how to get used to the new normal, that moving everything to digital world, and also to take this time to train up your other skills that you might want to explore on, but you didn't have time to. Because as a SEP, it's like we are always on the go, and it's like for me as a real estate agent, it's like every day is packed with appointments, and it's so busy. Sometimes like I work until midnight. We didn't have time to really upgrade ourselves. Maybe you can take this time, this low period to upgrade yourself, especially with such a good scheme from our government that pays us and also train us at the same time.
Okay, thank you, Lawrence. That's very nice to hear from an SEP himself. Next, Chuin.
I think that during this COVID-19 period, we have found that the fundamentals of getting your financials right and the foundations of financial life has been underscored. And also, the other part is that there's a lot of risk in our life as human beings and as society, and we need to know how that we can protect ourselves during this risk. And all the work is actually can be done when we can do it, right? So I think that is something that's been underscored, and we need to be able to take care of ourselves in terms of what we need to do on our personal financial foundations. So whatever way we choose, you continue as an SEP, you want to build a little business, using marketing tools and all that, you just build your financial foundations right.
Okay, thank you, Chuin. And last but not least, Wan Ling, what is one key lesson that SEP should take away from this all?
Can I play cheat? Can I give two?
Sure. Yeah. More than happy to hear.
So I think the first one, right, was something, right, that I felt was something that was quite bad, but there was a silver lining. And it has to do, right, with what Chuin, right, started talking about. One of the things, right, is that for freelancers, if let's say you don't have proper foundations during a bad time, like COVID, during a financial crisis, actually a lot of SEPs are thrown to win. Okay, this is something we all need to admit to. And part of it, right, is because a lot of freelancers are actually free spirits, also a little bit happy-go-lucky. And this is actually the thing that makes freelancers so charming, so resilient, and also at the same time very adaptable. But having said this, right, sometimes, right, in, like what Lawrence said, in the go, you got so many meetings and all that, you might have forgotten, right, to do a bit of planning. Because, right, just note that your life it's not just yourself. It also revolves your children. It also revolves your spouse, your family members, and maybe like even your friends and your neighbors. And so because of this, it's important, right, to plan forward. I think a lot of the things we heard from MoneyOwl was about personal financials, but I would also, right, let our freelancers know that there is something, right, also important. You kind of need to also, right, plan for your business, right? Insure your business. So like for instance, one of the things, right, that we really, really purported to, right, on the caregiver platform was actually to get freelancers to buy professional indemnity insurance. Can you imagine? For whatever reason that happens, let's say someone sues you for a job that's not, well done, or, you had an accident and all that. I think, right, your business could go south very quickly without the insurance in place. So I would suggest, right, that everybody also take some time, like what Lawrence said, take time out, plan, right, on what you need to do, right, to create the safety nets for you. The silver lining I was talking about is that actually, right, the labor movement and the government is here behind SEPs. I was very, very surprised this time, right, with the SEP SERS program that came out. This is the first time ever that I've ever seen the government come out to support freelancers in such a big way. I think that is the silver lining here is that, freelancing as a job type is being very recognized as a very valid way, a very pertinent way to be able to earn livelihoods, and because of this, right, there will be more safety nets that's going to be put in place for freelancers. And also the labor movement, right, is here, right, to make sure that we work with you to ensure that we actually get those safety nets aggregated and up for you in a very affordable way. But also, right, it's a tripartite. So our workers and employers, which is you, also needs to play a part. Okay. Now, this is one. Then the second part, right, is actually got to do, right, with pivoting. I think pivoting is very important. All of us know that eventually, right, whatever support mechanisms, however generous the government can be, however, right, the employers can be, at the end of it all, it is not a bottomless pot, that we have. And because of this, I think the best of us would need to know how to pivot our businesses well. We need to pivot our services well. So remember I was telling you that I'm also the director of the USME. So it's a unit that looks at SME businesses. So I've been talking to a lot of associations. Then of course a lot is doom and gloom lah. Ayo, very jialat lah. You're all going to die already. Not enough people don't want to join us, or not a lot of people buy things from us. But you know what? There were two sectors, two associations that I talked to that did very well, and both of them are in food. Because one of the things, right, I must admit, right, that our food companies actually pivoted very, very quickly, right, during the whole COVID-19. The first one, right, was actually in seafood. And I remember talking to one of the companies in the seafood association. You know what? They had 80% increase in revenues.
Wow, during the COVID-19?
Yes, during COVID-19.
Wow.
And the secret of their success, right, was this. First one was that they were very digital, very early. So already, right, they had the foundations, right. When the rubber hits the road, right, they were able to go online very, very quickly. And they were very clever. Because of this, right, they managed to get into all the Tuanko. So for all of you who might not know, Tuanko is the group buy lah, okay? So like you see in all the estates, people are buying lobster and all that, right, in quite great amounts. And yeah, so they benefited from that. The second thing that they did, right, was that they diversified. It's very important that we diversify our businesses. So they diversified in two areas. The first one, right, was that they only used to do B2B. But hotels have to close, right? There's no tourists, right? So what happens was that, they quickly went to C2C, which is part of the group buy thing and the online thing that they did. The second thing was they sold different types of seafood. The ones that suffered were only selling crab, only selling lobster with nothing else. But the ones who did very well, the 80% one, went into processed seafood also. So they did fish balls, things that keep in the freezer for longer. So I wanted to share this idea, and this thought with you, because ultimately at the end of it all, I think for a lot of us freelancers, we also want to scale up and become SMEs, and these are, to me, even for myself, right, very, very good learning lessons that I learned from the Tauke's and also learned from all of you. So, okay, Brenda, my play sheet finished already.
All right, thank you so much, Wan Ling. I think that this has been a really useful session, for myself, my team, all the SEPs who are present right now. If for all of you out there, if you have any other questions, please feel free to write into us. And I'll hand over to Brenda, who will make some closing statements before we end off.
Thank you, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you have benefited from this afternoon session. For any questions that have not been answered, not to worry, we will consolidate and include the answers in our post-event email. So please remember to look out for the email. If you wish to revisit today's content, please visit our NTUC membership Facebook page. We will prepare and upload the respective video as soon as possible. On behalf of NTUC Membership Services Division, NTUC Learning Hub, and PME Task Force, a very big thank you to all our speakers and of course to all the participants. We hope you have enjoyed the session and we'll look forward to seeing you again. Have a great day ahead. Thank you so much.